I'm Catherine Ross, and I'm here live from the NYSE. Jim Cramer is off today, so joining me is Jeff Marks, Senior Portfolio Analyst for Action Alerts Plus. Jeff, this morning we got news that China has retaliatory tariffs of $75 billion worth of goods, and that they're reinstating auto tariffs effective in December. How should investors approach these new tariffs?
Yeah, I think if you didn't see this coming, then you really haven't been paying closely to the tariff storyline. China hinted that we're going to see some type of retaliatory tariff after we placed our latest round on tariffs. So I think it is expected. Obviously, it'll take the market down obviously a little bit because that's what the news. But really, it's the Powell 10 o'clock conference that I think will be more of the driver. But in terms of negotiations, yeah, I think we're at the same place as we've been the whole time. But I go back to the Home Depot call from earlier this week, that great Home Depot call, CFO Carol Tomei, where she talked about how the consumer may be impacted if these trade negotiations just don't really get anywhere. But at the same time, manufacturers are moving out of China, right? So Home Depot suppliers are moving from China to Vietnam, to Thailand, Taiwan, even back to the U.S. So we may be at a good point in time where the two sides should come together to try and strike a deal, because the longer they wait, we might see some type of even more structural damage. So I think that's where we're at.
And just for investors who are watching live, the Powell conference is going on right now. It's about 10:02 p.m. Apparently what he said, we started down around 120 points on the Dow when we started this video. Now we're down about 15, 16 points. So we'll get into that after the show. But Jeff, I do want to move on because I do want to ask you about HP. Now, HP's CEO, Dion Wexler, stepped down yesterday, and coming in is Enrique Lores. What challenges does he face?
So I think it's the same challenges that HP has been experiencing for quite some time now, and it's really in the printing supplies business. What they've been dealing with there is a glut of inventory buildup, especially in the emerging markets. So he's going to have to navigate that difficult environment, but he has the experience because that's the business where he was coming from. That's the division where he was at prior to being named CEO. So that's what he has to work on.
Now, last night, Salesforce reported earnings.
Yeah,
and Great quarter. It's an Action Alerts Plus name. I really want to get into the quarter with you over on our Daily Rundown show after this. But for now, let's give them a taste of what they're missing. What is the one metric that every investor needs to pay attention to in Salesforce's quarters? All
right, so when I look at the Salesforce quarter, and this has been a stock that we've owned for Action Alerts Plus for quite some time. So what I look at every quarter is RPO. And that is not run pass option if that helped Nick Foles win the Super Bowl for the Eagles a couple years ago. That's going to be the current remaining performance obligation. And what this measures, it's a really good forward-looking tell, because it measures revenue that just hasn't been recognized yet, but is still under contract. So it's a measure of the pipeline and how spending is healthy and sort of what's left in store for Salesforce. And in the case of that quarter, it was a beat with really strong growth. So that's why you're seeing the stock pop today, amongst many other reasons. Which
we'll get into in just a second. But I do want to break it down, because we do have Salesforce is our real money stock of the day, meaning that our experts are breaking down what you need to know about trading Salesforce over on realmoney.com. Now, Jeff, I'm sure that everyone on our videos has seen that we've been talking a lot of fantasy football. You were involved with Jim's draft. You're in his league.
Yeah, I'm the Dan Jones industrial average. It's a play. I'm not a Giants fan, but it's a play on Dan Jones, the quarterback they drafted, and of course the Dow Jones industrial average.
So Jim said that he learned something, and he kind of took it from investing, which is play fantasy with your head, not your heart. What investing lesson did you use when you drafted?
Okay, so what I did is it's basically you don't want to draft a player on a bad team, on a bad offense. And that kind of goes along the lines of saying we don't like to buy stocks that are, they may be great companies, but they're in bad neighborhoods. So let's just take, for example, BP. BP, energy stock, one of the best run integrateds out there right now in the market. They're doing everything right. The free cash flow is great. Production is expected to grow they have a really strong pipeline, multi-year pipeline, and they're ready to raise a dividend that already yields close to probably around 7%. I think it's high sixes, 6 to 8. But the stock can't get ahead of itself because it's just in such a hated group. And I take that and I look at fantasy football. If you're on a bad team with a bad offense, you can't move the ball. Those teams can't score. And if you're a bad team and you're already down 2 to 3 touchdowns early on in the game, they're going to abandon the run and they're just going to start to throw. So if you draft a running back on a bad team, you might be out of luck because they're just not going to get enough carries for you to score points.
Jeff, is this your first time drafting with Jim?
It is my first time, yeah, and it's been a really fun experience so far watching him draft. He had some really good, sneaky good picks that I like. Chris Godwin, who went to Penn State, that's where I went. I think he's going to have a big year. He's the number 2 wide receiver on Tampa Bay. I really like him, but yeah, he had a great draft.
I gotta ask, so you are also a guy from Philly.
Yes.
And so is Jim. Obviously, everyone knows Jim's an Eagles fan, and he told me on the floor just a couple days ago he would never draft a Cowboy. Did you ever expect him to draft a Cowboy?
I did not. I was really surprised. I kind of do the same thing. I don't draft players from the Cowboys, the Redskins, the Giants, unless it would be Saquon. Or I don't really draft Eagles players either. I think that's more of like, it's such a love-hate relationship where so much goes into football on Sundays that if I have an Eagles player and they don't perform well, it's like a double loss. So I try and avoid some of my own players too. But I do like Miles Sanders, the rookie running back from Penn State for the Eagles this year. I think he can get a lot of carries in the second half of the year. He's got fresh legs.
That's what we want. All right, so as we're ending this video, it is now 10:07 p.m. The Dow is going positive. It's up 2 points, now it's up 6. So keep an eye on that. We'll have some more reporting over on TheStreet.com. But for now, we are heading over to our Action Alerts Plus daily rundown show over on ActionAlertsPlus.com. I'm Catherine Ross, and we'll see you tomorrow.